Breaking the gray.
Sarah, I was in the car a lot this last week, and I was, listening to our podcast. And my daughter was so funny. I was listening to our podcast, and I turned the car off, and I was on my phone. And my daughter came up to the car, and she was like, "Are you listening to yourself talking?" I'm like, "Oh, I was listening to our guest." I sometimes forget that it's you and me talking, and I'm listening to the guests because they're so amazing. But also, I realized that every single episode this season, and I'm going to say it again, we've had these little technical gremlins that just keep attacking us. I don't know what's going on. Today's Siri is attacking you.
I know. Yes, technology does gang up against me sometimes. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe there's a distortion in the field, and maybe that would be a good kind of segue for our lovely guest today.
Yeah. We have a new guest. I want to introduce our guest.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking to Tom Paladino, and I'm very interested actually, and I'm so glad that you agreed to come on, Tom. And I'm really interested in what you're doing. I've been reading a lot about all kinds of energy fields and plasma fields, and I know you're going to talk to us about scalar energy today. So Thank you so much for coming on, and it's a real pleasure to meet you.
I am honored, likewise. What a lady and a gentleman. Thank you.
The pleasure's ours. I wonder if we could start by maybe you could talk a little bit about your topic, which is scalar energy. It's, like I say, it's something that I've looked at for a long time because I used to work for a company where we looked mainly at how we could maybe manipulate the body's biofield. So I'm hoping that I've kind of got a little bit of head start where you're at, but please go on and describe your topic.
Yeah, you've already described your expertise, and frankly, everybody's an expert in scalar energy. Everybody has great expertise. It's sunlight, it's starlight. It's the initial energy of the universe. The first energy from the stars is scalar energy. Scalar energy has a derivative of electricity. So scalar energy is the first energy, the primary energy. Electricity and magnetism are derivative, or if you will, the inferior version of energy. So I would much rather work with the primary energy of the universe, life force energy, the initial energy of the stars, for various reasons. One of the reasons that it will command nature. You have a greater control over nature with scalar energy as opposed to electricity.
Right. And how did you kind of get into this, or what was your kind of epiphany of looking at this primary energy? Because it is something that I suppose right now is still considered a little bit fringe.
Yes, it is fringe. It was Nikola Tesla. Tesla was a great electrical engineer, but later in his life, he discovered scalar energy, and Tesla was working with the energy of the stars at the latter part of his career. Tesla actually developed towers that could capture this star energy, this sun energy. And he was very successful, but the powers that be were very intimidated because this is free energy. And we'll underscore that during our talk. This is energy from the sun and the stars. This energy someday will solve our energy needs.
Right. And yeah, it's very interesting you mentioned Tesla, but there's a lot of other people who've looked at different kinds of energy. Of course, in China, there's a lot of talk about qi as maybe like a different form of energy. And maybe even like Wilhelm Reich was looking at things like orgone energy, and now maybe I think there's a resurgence in people looking at the ether or plasma. So do you think these are all words for the same thing, or do you think that this is something different?
Exactly. They're synonymous terms. You see, so we all are familiar with this, whether it's orgone energy. Reich was able to take orgone energy and assemble a water molecule. He was able to take hydrogen and oxygen and assemble that into water. Well, I do the same thing with vitamins. I can take the existing elements and I can rearrange those elements into a vitamin or an amino acid. So what is my point? These terms that have been floated, orgone energy, pyramid energy, prana, chi, they all refer to, in that context, this scalar energy concept or 0-point energy, which is the primary energy of the universe. Now, why is that so important? Energy drives the universe. Energy dictates nature. Energy, light, is the captain of the universe.
No, I'm totally with you there. As Russ knows, I kind of light is the thing that I bang on about the most. And it's something that, the further you go down the rabbit hole and really try and understand it, the more nefarious it becomes, and you begin to understand that there is so much more to it. And certainly, how light interacts with the body is something that's relatively new. But kind of what have you actually seen that's kind of driven your passion for it? Because it seems to me it's something that, like say Eastern cultures are maybe a little bit more used to dealing with it and talking about it. But here in the West, no, not so much.
I believe in results. As a researcher, I'm all about results. When I started working with scalar energy instruments 30 years ago, I had tremendous results. I still have tremendous results. So I said to myself, this technology, it's a tool, obviously. We should embrace this. Now, I follow the laws of science, and these scalar energy instruments will abide by those laws. And the benefits are incredible. So I'm trying to impart that to the world. It does take some time. It's a new science. Scalar energy is not electrical engineering. So we're going to speak of a new science.
It sounds amazing. And whenever there's anything about light, I'm always interested because I see Sarah's whole world light up. But Tom, how does it, let's walk through how it works and how does scalar energy work in the human body?
All right. Once again, to provide the caveat, this is not electricity. How do I work? I work with a person's photograph. This is my photograph. People will email me a photograph. I actually take a person's photograph and I place it inside my scalar energy instrument. Now, a photograph is a source of light. It's energy. And my instrument can pick out what viruses, what bacteria I'm infected with, and then can send energy into the quantum field to destroy those bacteria and viruses. And I can judge in my laboratory the outcome on a photograph. And
how do you do that?
I'm
how
sorry?
do you do that, Pete? How do you do that, Pete?
I have a way of judging the presence or absence of, say, a microbe. I can judge whether I have the herpes virus, and after a session, I can remove that signal of the herpes virus. I can do that in my laboratory with a photograph. Well, there seems to be a parallel between a photograph and a person. As a matter of fact, a photograph is the bilocated version of a person. I want to make this very clear. I never work with people. I work with their bilocated version, their quantum version, which is a photograph. So instead of people coming to my laboratory, people can send me a photograph, or I can have a series of photographs, a collage of photographs. And everybody has a unique signature. And my instrument can pick out their unique signature and identify a microbe and destroy a microbe, all through the quantum field.
Is this technology that you've come up with yourself, Tom, or is it based on something like from Tesla? Or
I don't think Tesla was ever working with this. Frankly, I don't think he had the time. My predecessor, a man by the name of Hieronymus, a U.S. inventor, initially came up with this concept, and I continue on with his work. He's deceased.
Tom, what about Zoom meetings and being able to see someone on a Zoom screen?
Yes. That's a good point. If I were to take a photograph of this Zoom meeting, there's three people. We've Sarah, Russ, and myself. I could actually take a photograph, and there would be three people on the collage, not 25. And I could take that photograph and insert it into my instrument. And the instrument would identify Sarah's microbial present, Russ's microbial present, my microbial germ present, and would eradicate those microbes.
is it something that where you've got some kind of indicator, like how does the transcription work? Because we've kind of talked to people before about remote healing. So we're kind of a little bit used to using like an image as something that represents a person. But how do you then, I'm interested in the kind of before and after, I suppose. How can you tell?
I'll explain. I introduce into my instrument a photograph of a microbe. This is a photograph of Staphylococcus aureus, okay? And in so doing, my instrument will look at Staphylococcus aureus in my quantum field. And if I have this, the instrument is designed to identify and break apart, disassemble Staph aureus. So with a photograph, which is a source of light, a photograph of a microbe allows my instrument to define that microbe and destroy it.
I see. So it's kind of looking for an information pattern that's present within.
Yes. If I instruct my instrument to look for this information, for this pattern, as you put it, it will. And if it finds Staphylococcus aureus in my quantum field, it will identify it and then break down the molecular bonds. How does this work? Scalar energy takes the molecular bonds and negates it. It simply fragments a bacterium. And once the bacterium is fragmented, you're left with proteins and elements. It's no longer a viable life source.
And where does the the ability to see this stop? So it's bacteria, it's virus. What are some of the things that you can identify?
I would say any unicelled organism, protozoan, fungi, bacteria, viruses. I've had success with prions. I'm now starting to branch out into toxins and even starting to consider vaccine adjuvants. Some of these vaccines are polluted with man-made chemicals. And I want to be able to break down the molecular structure of all of those pollutants, all of those toxins. So this is my work within this setting. There's millions of applications of scalar energy. It's the life force energy of the universe. So I've only, if you will, tried to consolidate my efforts right now on quantum health. In the future, sure, you could illuminate a building. In the future, you could create anti-gravity instruments with scalar energy.
Well, what is your kind of ultimate goal, Tom? Because, I understand, you're working on the biology piece, but as you said, it sounds like first of all, it's something where you kind of need a bit of an expanded consciousness to get on board with it, because you have to start seeing the world in a totally different way. But where would you hope to go with it, if you could carry on your research?
Thank you. In my laboratory today, I'm working with 500,000 photographs. Eventually, I want to work with 1 billion people a year. I want to provide quantum healing to 1 billion people a year. It's not that difficult. It can be done. All we need to do is to promulgate this message and have people send in their photographs, preferably group photographs like this. So where do I want to go? I want to introduce essentially free healing to mankind. I want this to be a humanitarian effort. It's not about money. I don't ever want to involve money or the drive for money. We're going to keep this a healing ministry, and I want to heal the world. That's what I want to do, to answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, it must be challenging because you're surrounded by people, you're surrounded by photographs. Do you have to go into a different state of being or mindset as you're going into the healing process? Or are you always feeling like, oh, I've got to heal everyone now all the time? It must be daunting. I feel like it must be like being Mother Teresa at this point.
No, God bless you. God is with me. God gives me the courage and the strength. But today, now consider, I have collages from around the world. I'm working with 500,000 people today. Some of those people have HIV, or some of them have AIDS. It's so advanced. Some of them are suffering from tuberculosis or some threatening bacterial infection. So, consider every morning that I get up, I have to answer the bell. And that is to the tune right now of 500,000 people. Eventually, we'll be working with 1 million people or 2 million people a day. Is it daunting? Yes. Is it tenable? Sure. We're doing it right now. We're proving to the world that this is tenable. This is doable, so to speak. What do we need? We need people to get on board and to help us. I obviously cannot do this single-handedly.
Yeah. Do people know that they're suffering from these things, or are you identifying it before? Are you diagnosing it for them?
The instrument diagnosis. I per se, I want to make this very clear. I do not have the knowledge to diagnose 500,000 people, and I'm not being facetious. So I've standardized the process so that I can cycle in the instrument. I can take photographs of microbes. That's Streptococcus. Here's Staphylococcus aureus. So I have thousands of photographs of pathogens. And on any given day, I can cycle inside the instrument 400,000 microbes. 400,000 microbes. So in the span of an hour or so, I can identify possibly 400,000 species of pathogens and eradicate those 400,000 species of pathogens from people who send me their photograph. So now appreciate this as a numbers game. 400,000 species of pathogens can be downloaded or communicated with 500,000 people a day. It's all by way of photographic interface.
Yeah. So I'm a tech pro. I've been in tech for a long time. And I've worked for many companies that have, claimed to be able to solve so many amazing things, disrupting. Do you think technology could do this? Or is this a human to human thing or a human to photo thing that has to happen?
This technique that I've developed works. Why? Because I'm only working with light. I have a scalar light instrument. Secondly, I work with light in the form of a photograph of a microbe. And finally, I work with a light source, which are people, photographs of people. So everything I do, the entire equation is light, so to speak. So there is no weak link to the chain. Follow me? There's no human ingenuity here. There's no room for human error. It's a light instrument working with photographs of people, working with photographs of microbes. All of that is light, energy. And energy never lies. Energy never makes a mistake.
I wonder what you think about the concept, because a lot of people think that possibly like bacteria and viruses aren't actually the problem with people's health, and that the problem is more that people have an environment that either encourages proliferation of the wrong bacteria. So if you eradicate herpes or streptococcus or whatever you are from the person is still you haven't changed the person. And so are you eradicating a bug like a temporary blip, or are you actually doing something? And one more question that I can just get in. What about the life of the bacteria or the bug? Because I'm wondering with like the scalar energy, does it differentiate between, human life and bacterial life?
So the instruments are designed, calibrated to eliminate microorganisms. And then you're right. If somebody doesn't have the right environment, they can be reinfected. So we have to really encourage people to live a sound life and not to expose themselves to this, what I would consider a deleterious lifestyle, in which even though we can eradicate, say, the herpes virus, if they're not practicing proper behavior, they could be easily become reinfected with the herpes virus or other viruses for that matter.
Yeah. And what about like I say, like if you're using energy, you're still wiping out life in a way. It's still, it's not a human life, but it's still a conscious, energetic being.
You're absolutely right. And I am saying without equivocation that I can alter life or I can destroy life. These are very powerful instruments. Yes, I can eradicate viruses, bacteria, fungi. Those are life forms. Yes. And with my follow-up statement is, these are very powerful instruments. They carry a great deal of responsibility. I will not sell this technology.
Well, yeah, that was kind of my next worry. It's something, that the world is always looking at ways to eradicate life in some way or other.
Yeah, it's a great responsibility that I have. Any tool has an upside or a downside. And the upside is we can identify viruses such as the HIV virus and eradicate it. The downside is somebody in the future, and Nikola Tesla worried about this, can use this as a weapon.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah's, it's a great point that in the wrong hands, you could do something terrible with it.
Especially if you just need a photo. Yeah, it is a very double-edged sword, isn't it? Kind of
Yes, it is.
Bringing the technology to people's awareness.
Yes, it is. You're right. You're right.
Tom, I don't know if you'd be open to this, but how, like, could you, like, just walk us through what you have to do? Like, what is, like, go through a process. I don't know if you want to, like, we can pull up a photo or you have a photo, but let's go through a process. I'd love to see how you do it. Or do you need to be in the lab and need to be in kind of a certain environment to do it?
I need to be in the lab, but I'll use these props. So every
Okay.
evening I receive hundreds, thousands of photographs. We have an automatic photo uploader, and we actually have to print the photograph. The photograph is again a source of light, but it has to be printed on paper. And then I go to my laboratory and I actually place the photographs of people inside the instrument. Now, once again, in review, if I want to eradicate certain pathogens in people, it's very straightforward. I match up a photograph of a microbe. And in so doing, those photographs of a microbe will be identified in people, and the instrument is calibrated to what? Break down, disassemble Staphylococcus aureus. Now, we also have another process in which we take photograph of nutrients. This is a photograph of riboflavin. And likewise, I can place a photograph inside the instrument and we can assemble riboflavin in people, in their quantum field. So we use one instrument to break down, to eradicate pathogens. We use another instrument in phase to create nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids. And all of this takes me throughout the day. This is my daily routine. This takes a great deal of work and effort. And this is what we've achieved with these instruments, the ability to assemble what's beneficial or break down, negate the molecular bonds, what is harmful on a daily basis.
Is there any, like, if the photo's altered, anything like, I just wonder, like, if Kim Kardashian sent you one of her heavily photoshopped photos, what happens there? Do you just deny it and say, send me something real?
We don't make that judgment. So whatever people send in,
Okay.
we work with. That's a good point.
Even though in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't think this is really what she looks like right now.
Yeah, very good. Let me make this very clear. Even some people have makeup on. Well, that doesn't really matter. Why? Well, the energy still understands, this godlike energy still understands who's behind the makeup. Or some people, let's face it, you can't put makeup on your eye. So your eye would identify you, or your hair would identify you. So this is really a godlike energy. I believe it's divine energy that we're working with. It has an intelligence that is really essentially an infinite intelligence. So not only are we going to be able to use this energy to identify the character of vitamins, we could use this energy for in any application. It's the perfect information system.
Do you think it is like a something related? You've mentioned like your spirituality, or do you think it is related? Do you kind of equate it to God or a spirit?
It's God's light. It's the light of God. This has to be a divine light for various reasons. It's eternal. It never fades. It carries perfect information. It always achieves its objective. Nothing can weaken its force. Scalar energy is everywhere. It transcends time and space. All of those characteristics really describe an energy that's divine in character.
Yeah, I think there's a big crossover now with science and spirituality, and it's just interesting to hear how different people interpret that. And I think it is becoming more of a discussion, especially in mainstream science. So it's very interesting to get your take on that.
I firmly believe that, because electricity is a movement of electrons. Well, scalar energy exists throughout the universe. It exists everywhere. It's omnipresent. So I think its omnipresence calls to mind a God who's omnipresent.
I'm curious about, like, and this might sound ridiculous, but what about a broken heart? Like, I imagine that if someone's really struggling with depression or sadness, there's something's going on in their system, and you can see that in a photo. And is there something that you can do there with some of these psychological things, rather than jumping on, to your, most widely prescribed antidepressants? Is there something that we can do here with your healing areas?
Yes, to answer your question, yes. And I believe there's a component to what we're working with is a chakra balancing or a brain balancing. Many people say after a session they're happier because we're sending this godlike energy to them. Or people say that they have a greater sense of mental clarity. Well, I would give all the credit to the energy, to the divine healing capacity of this energy. It's not as if I'm a psychologist. I'm not. I'm a scalar energy researcher. But many people have said that their dream state improves, or that they're no longer depressed, or that they have greater mental clarity, or that they can deal with emotional baggage. They can deal with their emotional past and at least make some type of rectify a situation. So all of that calls to mind psychological, emotional healing. Does scalar energy provide psychological, emotional healing? Yes.
But would you have some kind of, because in order to identify the pathogens, you've got an image. I mean, can you have some kind of image of depression, anxiety, heartbreak that you can use as a
I've thought of that. I've thought of that. And I don't know how to negate an image or a photograph of depression or, say, anxiety, or a photograph. Well, let me say this. I do have a chemical detox program in which I take, say, a photograph of cocaine and I place it inside the instrument. And the instrument then is negating the molecular bonds of cocaine, but also in some way providing a spiritual healing from that energetic hold, from that spiritual imbalance of cocaine. And we've had some success with people with drug addiction and alcohol addiction. At least on my end, the if you will, the functioning arm is to take a photograph of cocaine or alcohol and treat the person with that photograph of cocaine or the photograph of alcohol.
It'd be interesting to, what about, have you tried it with psilocybin or DMT or something to see whether you can go the other way and help people to get greater altered states?
Yeah, you're
without the
hitting
come
a nail
down.
on the head. Yeah, with DMT, that spirit molecule, it's hard to say what the outcome would be.
Yeah, well, that would be an interesting experiment, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
And Tom, I imagine that the more that you take in, the more that you see and put things into your instrument, the more you're seeing as well, right? So you're constantly probably having to learn as well.
Oh, it's a never-ending subject. It's infinite, and it's the vast of this vast resource of information, scalar energy. I've just barely hit the tip of the iceberg here. So I learn something every day. I have a great calling. I love what I'm doing. It's I hope a greater number of people take an interest in this science.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why Sarah and I are here. You know, I think I think it's, just introducing this to our listeners and sharing it. And I think breaking it down too. I think there's a lot of, like, we've had remote healing. We've talked about that. We've had Reiki masters as well on, and I think it's just breaking down this fear of it, because fear, if someone's questioning it, they're afraid of it. And I think just break down that fear so people can understand it and how it works. Tom, where can we find your information? How can we get a hold of you? You had mentioned that there might be some ability to get some free intro lessons as well.
Yes, as a new science, I think it's only appropriate that we offer free sessions. So our website is scalarlight.com. Visit the website and you will have the opportunity to email us your photograph or the photograph of family and pets, and we'll treat you for free for 15 days. We'll balance your chakras, we will identify and eliminate microbes, and we will assemble nutrients, micronutrients, amino acids, fatty acids. And we do that for 15 days, 15 consecutive days. And that way people have, if you will, an understanding as to how they feel with this energy. It's a new science. I've developed this protocol. This protocol is unique to my laboratory. This is how I get the word out there, by this free session.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm sure there's people who'll have loads of questions, but I believe you've got videos and things on the website too that people can download. Same website. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we do. Yeah, exactly. And and if you do sign up, include your email. We will send you a daily email. We'll explain to you what you're going through, Again, we're all about education. We want people to take this slowly. We want people to be comfortable with this process.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Sarah.
no, I was just going to say it's awesome, and really you're a true rebel scientist because I imagine you get a lot of pushback on a lot of your ideas, and it's something that is for most people a stretch.
I do, Sarah, but there should not be a pushback because I'm working with instrumentation that shows a repeatable process. So I'm working within the guidelines of science. This is not autosuggestion. This is not my opinion. Everything I do is scientific. I follow the scientific laws of scalar energy, which again is plasma or chi or prana. It's not electricity, but there is a plasma field, and I work in that plasma field.
For sure. Well, and I think really true experimentation is using yourself as an instrument. And we've talked about that many times on the show. So I think for people to be able to offer to people to actually experience it for themselves, that's an excellent way for people, if they're skeptical or even if they're not and they just want to go for it. I think that's awesome that you're offering that so people can try it. That's how you learn. You use yourself as an N=1. So
it's all about performance to me. I want to show people that this performs. I want to show people the benefits. And that's why I offer everybody in the world 15 days of free sessions.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, I think Sarah and I will probably participate and have this as well. I think it's something we've done many times where we will do a 7-day challenge. This is a 15-day challenge. So sign us up. We'll talk. And then the other, so it's scalarlight.com,
Yes.
15-day trial. Do you want to share your phone number as well, Tom, or do you want to just send people to the website?
Go to the website. Our support desk is 805-364-3051. You can call us. We'll walk you through the process.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you so much for coming on, Tom. It was just really enlightening, pun intended, to speak to you. And it's just fabulous.
God bless you. I want to mention one more thing.
Sure.
I'm holding up, this is a photograph out of Delhi, India. This is a HIV/AIDS community in Delhi, India. We're working with them by way of their photograph. Everybody that we've worked with so far at this HIV community feels better. And those who've had a follow-up PCR test, polymerase chain reaction test in Delhi, India, nobody has any viral load anymore for HIV.
That's awesome.
We've already worked with 2,000 people in Delhi, India, who had HIV, were HIV positive. And now the results are stellar.
Yeah.
So you're going to hear about this technology in the future. It's about to happen.
For sure. It's a frontier science. It is. And it's something, like I say, I think as the science of it becomes more elucidated, people will be able to get their heads around it more. But for now, just having you out there actually doing it and offering it for people to try, I think, that's a huge step forward. So thank you for sharing.
And thank you for your time. Thank you for being open-minded. God bless.
You bet.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks, Tom.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Breaking the gray.